we're happy at short notice to get Hamish from Deep Creek, who's got his own brand Isthmus, as well as being a head brewer there at Deep Creek. He's going to give us a bit of background about both and brewing things in general. Over to you, Hamish.
Cool. Thanks, Reese. I've literally prepared nothing because, as Reese said, it was last night that I agreed. So I just thought, rather than me crap on about stuff, we could do a Q&A or something like that. Guess I'd give you a brief rundown. So yeah, I've been head brewer at Deep Creek for coming up to 10 years now. It was 2013 I joined Deep Creek, so yeah, coming up to 9 years, sorry. And just prior to that, I formed Isthmus Brewing with a guy I used to work with. And so I guess the story goes, I was approaching Deep Creek to ask about contract brewing Isthmus beer at their brew pub in Browns Bay. And they said, oh yeah, that'd be great, but why don't you come and be head brewer for us, and you can do that at the same time and everything will be awesome. And that's how it all started. And probably for the first 5 years of that, I spent all my time on Deep Creek trying to whip their brewery into shape and put in a new brewery up in Silverdale, and then kind of rebooted Isthmus a few years ago once my wife Caroline came on board and said this isn't allowed to be a hobby anymore, it's got to be serious or nothing. And so yeah, that's where we are now, and just started exporting for Isthmus in the last, did Australia maybe 18 months ago, 2 years, 18 months. And then recently sent beer over to Japan and Singapore. So getting a bit more widely out there. Deep Creek, I'm sure you're familiar with. I won't bore you with their details. But needless to say, had a few successes over the years. So yeah, sorry for the really brief story, but probably easier for me to take questions about stuff because.
So the brew pub at Browns Bay, that's where it all started on that plant there, right? So that was quite a 1,000 litre setup, was it? 500?
1,000. So Deep Creek, yeah, started 10 years ago. August, it's always around my daughter's birthday, so it's early August the 6th or 8th or something like that was their official birthday. And I think in about 2 months' time, they quickly exceeded the capacity of the site to make beer to supply the bar. So it was a wild success, or a gross under planning of the success. They had, it was a 1,000 litre brew kit with basically 2 fermenters and 4 conditioning tanks, which turned into 6 fermenters and a site down the road where they could, with some bright tanks, so they'd tank a beer down to the other end of Browns Bay. Put it in
so it was being tankered down. That makes it quite a mission. Yeah,
well, the plan originally was that the brewery would all be on site on one site, and it would all be self-sustainable. But then, outgrowing the
pesky demand got in the way.
Yeah, that's poor planning, eh?
Yeah. So, and then coming forward to now, so that part's been sold off and it's got new owners. So that's now.
It's still under the same brand, and we have a contract to supply them with a bunch of their taps. Not all of them, but definitely a proportion. And they wanted it to continue under the same brand anyway, just for continuity in the location, because it's been pretty successful. And yeah, we sold that in November 2019, I think it was. And yeah, the focus for us getting into the business was not running hospo, it was making beer. So while the success of the bar underpinned the growth for Deep Creek, it wasn't the reason that we started. So we moved out and became a beer only brand. Along the way, we'd set up bars in Waiheke and Orewa as well, and kind of from growing that hospo empire, decided that hospo wasn't for us.
Yeah.
So we moved away from it.
I remember the one on Waiheke. It was quite small and it's quite hard to find, but
yeah, it was kind of in just over the other side of the cliff from Oniroa there, underneath the real estate agents, I think it is. So yeah, it was, I mean, it was a successful place, the Waiheke bar. I mean, all of them have stood on their own legs themselves. But yeah, it was just supplying bars on Waiheke is a pain in the ass, because no one wants to send stuff over there. We wound up having to send kegs over in our van on the ferry, and yeah, it was a nightmare.
So you've got some big changes happening at the plant in Silverdale. You're taking over Silverdale, I hear.
Yeah, we've only taken over one unit in our driveway so far, but we've definitely reduced the amount of stuff we hold on site by sending pretty much all our stock and a lot of our dry goods to other warehouses around, so we can focus on production in the Silverdale site. And yeah, we've got a 5,000 litre 4-vessel brew kit, still in, well, most of it's still in China at the moment. You may have heard that international freight is a bit of a pain in the ass at the moment.
That's nothing to do with Kevin McCormick.
Yeah, so most of the brew house is there, but we're expecting it hopefully mid-December, although we were expecting it mid-October. So, and the stuff we got 2 containers out of there that arrived last week, and we've got our 3 new 10,000 litre fermenters, which we stood up with a crane on the weekend, and a new HLT. We figured we might be able to get more out of our current brew house with a bit more hot water.
So you've got a sort of a plan where you're crossing over between the old brewery and the new brewery then?
Hopefully it'll be a nice clean cut between commissioning the new one and turning the old one off. But yeah, we'll see how that plan works out.
You have to decommission the new one, the old one, before you can install the new one, or you can run them parallel for a bit?
They're going to go in parallel, because the new site inside our building is off to the side, so we can do all the work that we need to on that part of the building without impacting brewing too much.
Cool.
What are you doing with the old gear, Hamish?
It's currently for sale on IBL. So
no one's bought it yet.
What's that? Sorry.
No one's bought it yet. I thought that'd be. Yeah.
We've had a few tire kickers, and yeah, definitely some interested people, but it's not really available until the new kit is commissioned, really, at which point we'll rip it out. So ideally we'd have a buyer lined up before then. But
so what size is the old mash tun and what size is the new one?
The old system's a 2-vessel 20 hec. So yeah, and then there's 6 20 hec fermenters and a 40 hec fermenter and a 40 hec bright to go alongside it.
Sorry, how's that going to work? So you're brewing now for Deep Creek and also your own brand, and so the brewery that you're brewing from now, that's brewing for both brands?
Yeah, as well as a few others.
And so you're going to decommission that one, and then the new brewery is going to do the Deep Creek. It's just going to take over everything that the current one's doing.
Yeah,
now.
pretty much. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about having to do 5,000 litre batches for Isthmus, but
Okay.
we'll,
Are you selling the equipment with the property and everything? The brewery
no,
as is?
not with the property. Just it's all being removed from our site,
Okay.
so we can put more fermenters in that space, basically.
Yeah, so you've got to scale up from 2 to 5 for
Yeah,
your
which-
own brand.
Yeah, it's pretty much already the reality for Deep Creek that's the size, and
Mhm.
yeah, it'll probably be hopefully for Isthmus more of a focus on core beers and trying to push them more widely. So the exciting one-offs, they'll either be really high gravity and low yield, or something else, some other way of making that
Oh,
work.
start a barrel program, Hamish. You'll never regret it.
Yeah, I've just got to find somewhere to put the barrels, mate.
Yeah.
Anyone got a shed?
Got room under my house.
Yeah, the problem is you probably sample a few as well, mate.
I was going to say, we can make room. Can we siphon?
They call it tax, don't they?
Yeah, it's Angel's share.
Exactly. The angel share. I was going to say. Got it.
It's called
Brave
Brendan
share doesn't
tax.
have quite the same ring to it, does it?
So your Isthmus stuff going into Australia, so that must have been affected quite a bit by the whole COVID and the shipping and
Yeah, we just
all the
had
rest of it.
we had a couple of pallets on the water when this all blew up in New South Wales, so wasn't ideal timing from that perspective. The distributor over there is Australia wide, so hopefully he can sell the beer to the lesser affected parts of Australia.
How does that work when you're selling to us? I mean, are you sort of like selling at FOB, or you get paid when it gets sold, kind of thing?
60-day terms, pretty much.
Right.
So from departure, yeah.
You focus on like cans and bottles at the moment?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty hard to get cans at the moment. Seems like everyone's doing the same thing. Kegs aren't selling, then and the manufacturers haven't made enough cans, and everyone's after them. That's why you'll see some more interesting coloured cans. We've
Okay.
certainly had to put stuff into different colour cans than what we want.
Because I guess that's the thing about kegs, is it's for the pubs and the bars, which people haven't been going to. So it's hard to sell a keg of beer over there, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's most of our sales really is bars in Auckland. So it's definitely been unfortunate lockdown.
Was that for Isthmus or for Deep Creek?
Isthmus, yeah, Deep
Yeah.
Creek is mainly packaged stock to supermarkets in New Zealand anyway.
You're going to package your lager?
Yeah,
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
yeah. I've got 6-pack designs and 6-pack labels and beer in cans at the moment. So
That's a bloody good beer.
in probably December, I think I have the 6-packs out. Should have labels in the next week or so.
Oh, sweet.
So, yeah, it'll.
Can you give us a bit more background on your lager? You can go into the recipe if you want to, or background on
yeah,
yeast
it's
and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a 4% Hellas, and yeah, it's all Pilsner malt. It's a hop Tetnang or Hallertau tradition, depending on what's available at the time. And
So where are you sourcing your hops?
I get them from either Hop Solutions or from Alchemy. Yeah, it's all out of Haas usually. And what's the yeast? The Hohenstefan strain
Oh yeah.
from either that or the is it White Labs 802? I can't remember what that is. Budvar, yeah, that's the one. Either of those are nice clean yeasts that I.
And what's your secret lagering technique then for your ferments?
Just get it out as soon as possible. Lager in the can, mate. So lagering is not for contract brewers, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, lager in the can or the keg.
Oh, right. So you're not doing a big.
No, I mean, it gets a proper conditioning, but we're basically in and out in 3 weeks. So yeah, I doubt you'd say there's much lagering going on.
Do you find there's a difference with the? I mean, if they're kept cold in the can or keg and they're stored, do you reckon you get a improvement in the beer with more time?
Definitely the flavor comes up over time compared to that packaging. So yeah, you definitely, but you see that with pretty much any beer anyway. So I think conditioning to package is pretty much all you get. And we're not resting on yeast, we're filtered. So
It's 3 weeks from brew day, or 3 weeks
from brew day, yeah.
So that's fast turnaround.
It's
No, it's good.
Standard, pretty standard.
Is that the Y Stefan? Is that the 3470 or is that the
34
dry yeast?
the dry version? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, or crisp from Frostec is what we're using at the moment.
Oh yeah.
The same thing, or 830, I think, and White Labs. Can't remember.
Yeah, 830.
Y East has too many numbers. So.
And what temps are you fermenting at?
56 or something on Y East.
Yeah. So we're looking around 10 degrees.
So quite, and you start at 10 and.
Start at 10, hold 10 till de-rest at like 15 or something, and till we're clear, and then crash the whole 1 degree and fine, and until we've got a bright tank, which can be maybe 2 days cold.
Right. Yes, I mean that's quite so it must do a lot of the work in 2 weeks then, eh?
Yeah, I mean the fermentation's pretty quick, and it's pretty clean at low temperatures, so we don't tend to get too much diacetyl or issues with passing diacetyl. So,
and does it throw much sulfur, that yeast?
Little bit. It's not too bad. It's got a real nice kind of little bit of a hint of ester profile that really complements the hops. It's a little bit more fruity than the Budvar, which is like quite clean. So yeah, it's got a little bit more fruitiness to it, but I think that plays well with the hops. And we've shuffled between 80, I think it's 802. Can't remember. Whatever the Budvar strain is. Could be 801. I can't remember.
That is 802.
It is 802. Oh yeah, cool. So yeah, we've shuffled between that and 830 and the Urquell as well. We've used all of them have their merits. All of them make good beer. Sometimes availability can be an issue, which means that's why you change to a different one. But they, like our pilsners for Deep Creek, we've shifted those through all those 3 strains, and we're currently on the 830.
And using powdered or liquid form?
Liquid, yeah. Yeah, dry yeast only if we've had an accident or something. Haven't got yeast in time, something like that.
Are you propagating your yeast?
We just buy smaller quantities, so we can propagate. And the main reason for our propagation is for hazies, pretty much, because you need to pitch them fresh every time. You can't harvest to brew those. So having propagators is a function of being mainly a hazy brewery.
Do you
have any tips for the guys on lagers? Because I mean, one thing I think about your lager is it's such a simple beer, but it's just bloody well made and really good balance.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have to get fancy with lagers. It's just, man, it's smashable.
Yes, and maintain and control your temperature. pretty much. Yeah, it's a pretty basic recipe. It's pretty low level of hopping. Don't get too fancy. Malt bill's like just Pilsner for this beer. And
What malt are you using?
Malt Europe Pils.
Mm.
So,
Oh, wow, you can't get much more basic than that.
pretty much, yeah. It's
There's
built.
a lot of really good pilsners out there though that use Malt Europe. I mean, you know, McLeod's Longboard is all Malt Europe. There's a lot of other ones out there that are.
Yeah, no, Liberty are pretty much all Malt Europe. So, yeah, can definitely make decent beer with that malt. We've had no issues over the years. So.
What chased you away, or why aren't you a favor of the dry yeast? What kind of accidents have you had?
It's not accidents, it's just consistency and cost as well. So for us, it's just easier to get a pitchable amount of liquid yeast from whatever supplier with dry yeast.
Have you done anything with the Throth guys, local?
Yeah, they're our yeast provider at the moment. So we've been, I wouldn't say we're the biggest customer. Maybe we are. Don't know. We've been getting yeast off them for the last 9 months.
Right. Yeah, we had them on about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, they're good. They're doing good stuff. So, and definitely been happy with the performance of the yeasts. I mean,
so they were claiming that they're, because of the fresher and all the rest of it, and their high cell counts, that you get quick ferments and all the rest of it. Is that your experience compared to overseas source?
Well, we're propagating anyway. So what a high cell count for a 300 litre pitch may not translate to that in a bigger pitch. And then when we're running generations to the propagator, not so much for us. Definitely the freshness, because we get it next day, and the reliability of shipping within New Zealand. However terrible that's been recently, although we haven't had too many issues. Shipping from the States is an absolute nightmare. Nothing worse than tracking your package from FedEx, where you spend a fortune, probably more. The value of your shipping is more than the value of the yeast. And you're watching your package go from San Diego to Hawaii to Sydney, and like, am I going to be able to, how long is it going to take me to be able to use this yeast that I needed for a brew on a date set in stone? So yeah, just being let down by international shipping has pushed us to local, really.
Yeah, well, that's good that locals working. So that's good for all, right?
Yeah, I'm stoked. We've got a New Zealand yeast supplier.
So it's a availability issue. Are you finding that because of the fact you're not paying for massive shipping, like in terms of the costs and stuff, offset a little bit, or?
We're running probably fewer generations on our yeast now, whereas before we could probably take 001 up to Gen 20 and not care about it too much. Now we'll probably, you definitely won't get away with that with your hazy generations. We try to run no more than 5. So we're, it's cheaper, and you're just less concerned about that as a cost. Not that it's a massive cost in your beer anyway, but.
When you talk about running generations for hazy, though, are you repitching off what you've already fermented, or you're actually just keeping your propagator and building it up?
Yeah, we call a generation when you repitch wort into there. Yep. So you're taking, say you got 300 litres in the propagator, you take 200 for a batch, top that back up to 300 to new yeast growth. So it's a generation.
Cool.
What's the difference with the hazy yeasts versus 001 in that approach?
So we'll try and repitch or harvest from a ferment for 001. If you do that with a hazy, because you're selecting for the flocculent cells that are basically the lazy ones that have gone in, done their job and left it at whatever, 1040, 1030, and decide to drop to the bottom. whereas all your active ones are still kind of floating around in there. Even at the end, you wind up making clear under attenuated beer, which is not what people want when they're getting a hazy. Or you don't want that full stop when you're drinking a beer. Some would
Yeah,
say
Hamish, I've
hazies
just
are a clear under attenuated beers anyway, but yeah.
I've just finished the IPA. Which one should I go for next?
So you got 4 as your lineup. So you got fresh. You just had the wisdom, the L. Yeah. Go for probably maybe go Beautiful Haze, then Miyagi, then Fresh Hop for the finish.
Right. Yeah. Good plan. Yeah, that
Can't
Mr.
go
Miyagi's. Yeah, that Mr. Miyagi is a great beer.
Yeah.
I first encountered that. We work near the Quartus Hotel, and you know the new bar there. Our land is our own or something. We first came across it there. Yeah, it was a beautiful experience having it there. So, could you tell us anything about that beer at all, Mr. Miyagi? What is in that?
Good question.
Yeah,
it's basically the grist is basically, I think it's 80% ale malt Europe ale, 10%, 10 to 11, 12 German wheat malt, and another 8% rolled oats. And then hopping is probably Taihiki Mochueka in the Whirlpool, and bitted to about 20 odd IBUs, 20, 25 IBUs. And then Mosaic, Rewalker, Mochueka, and the dry hop. And
something a bit different. I don't know what it is, but
the it's really passion fruity. And with Rewalker this current season, we didn't get our full allocation, so we've had to change the hopping we've had to pull Rewalker out of it. So it's got Idaho 7 is basically what we've used to replace that, and it's kept the passion fruitiness right up there. So I've been pretty pleased that we could basically make the same beer with different ingredients, because Rewalker is a pretty unique hop. It's definitely a hard one to replace in recipes.
Pretty rare right now. Yeah.
It's just so distinctive. Yeah, it's quite cool. So each of your beers, you sort of try and have a profile to like more of a rather than just not a recipe, it's something you're aiming for in terms of a particular distinctive character or something like that. And you build around that, or you just
it started as a recipe, and then when your ingredients. That's when brown trousers happens. You can't your ingredients. Yeah, oh no, now I've got to maintain something. So yeah, I was pretty happy with it. The replacement hop didn't impact the flavor too much, or not noticeably anyway.
I mean, I got a question for you. With what you did for your birthday beers, that's a pretty unique thing to be able to do, is to be able to go back and sort of pull back some of the classics from a while ago, especially since, I mean, you guys have been on a hell of a journey for the last 10 years. And I imagine, processes have evolved, everything else is, I mean, what was it like sort of going back and brewing some of those? And how do you sort of, looking back from where you were and the original things, I mean, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to go back, because some of them I think we made all of them on our new brew kit. Some of them we hadn't made for a long time. Some had kind of only recently been culled. And so the New England IPA was our first hazy beer, and it kind of only predated Miyagi by not that long. So Beautiful Haze, I think, was the second one, our first real commercial one. And then Miyagi was straight after that. And it was supposed to be the start of a new range. Dusty Gringo, we kind of had only recently stopped. Recently, probably like 3 years had been since we stopped making that. So that one was something we'd honed quite a lot on the kit anyway, and kind of handed that one off to another contract partner when we got a huge order from overseas. And then the overseas order got cancelled, so we wound up with heaps of the stock, and it wasn't quite to our liking. So that kind of killed that bear. Wasn't really through any action of our own, other than not being able to sell it. And the pontoon, yeah, I mean, IPA's moved a long way from when that bear first started out 10 years ago. To be fair, we've moved that recipe along with the times a fair bit, but definitely it was a lot more of an old school IPA, which is quite refreshing to have out in the market again. And then Basilica was something I think we'd only made 3 batches of that all up. Anyway, 2 of them were at Browns Bay, and one was, I think we did like 1,000 litre brew up at Silverdale. So we used to do it in 750ml bottles, and it was a pain to deal with 750ml bottles at the best of times. And yeah, it was quite good we kind of reimagined that one of how we would make that now, and so that recipe moved a fair way from where it was originally, but I think it was a lot better for that as well. So
you're exclusively cans now, aren't you?
We do bottles for our barrels program. That's right. But that's like maybe 1,000 litres once every 3 or 4 months. So not very large scale.
Just having a pontoon at the moment. Really nice beer.
I've got one of these lined up for.
Oh yeah, Gringo.
Yeah.
I suppose you still got some of the batch that wasn't big. That was I've still got one more can of that left. I beat it the other day.
I think it's probably still tasting as good as the day it was canned, and that was that was
impressive. I think, is that beer from when did you last brew it in your own brewery before you outsourced it? About 4 years old, wouldn't it?
Is that one you've got is one that we made? Yeah, should have a batch code.
I have to check. Yeah, that was holding out really well, eh?
I can look in our computer system. I think with the dark malt, it really does hold its age really well. So yeah, like antioxidant quality. So it's pretty resistant to age, and for some reason the hops seem to persist a lot longer in hoppy dark beers than they do in say an IPA, or maybe it's just the background flavor. It doesn't go all caramelly and detract from that.
With pontoon, did you keep the same bitterness kind of level as you did originally? Because I mean, I'm always curious as to whether my bitterness over the years has got.
I think, it's pretty much the same recipe. So I think the bitterness is pretty strong compared to some of the IPAs. Certainly some of the other IPAs we make these days. So when I had it, I was really happy with it, and definitely was a lot more noticeably better than Prism or had antivirus out at the time as well. So yeah, which are definitely more modern versions of IPA, which are pared back on any sort of crystal malt, and definitely lower bitterness to compensate for that lack of body or residual sweetness.
Are you using much crystal malts these days? I guess you would have wound them back going mostly hazy, right?
Not a lot at all, really. No. We've just today made an imperial stout, so that's been probably a most crystal that we've used in a while, or certainly specialty malt. Maybe not crystal's the right word. Redwood's got a fair bit in it. So yeah, we definitely still use a bit, but a lot less than we used to, or maybe we just use about the same amount, and we use way more base malt in comparison. So yeah, we've definitely stripped it out of a lot of recipes, and we don't put it in our hazies at all. Maybe the odd one has some Carahel in it, but yeah.
And also your decision with Malt Europe, is that more cost based? Because I mean they are sort of considered like a basic malt.
Yeah, I think it's maybe unfair. Good. We used Gladfield for a couple of years, so definitely we're happy with the Gladfield malt, and we've won awards with both malt suppliers. So definitely had a cost impact as we've grown. Like maybe wouldn't like to hazard a guess at what the difference in prices, but it'd be around 10 or 15 cents a kg, something like that. We're using through a ton a day. We're pretty much using a ton a day, so it makes an impact to your bottom line when you start to grow scale. When we were using way less, it didn't really matter so much to us. But yeah.
But in terms of actual flavour, like you actually noticing a flavour difference?
No, a little bit, but not enough that the cost justifies it, I think.
Yeah.
And you can certainly do things to impact or mitigate that. But I mean, there's literally nowhere to hide in a 4% lager. So I'm happy to make a 4% lager with 100% malt Europe Pilsner and very little hopping to go with it. So
what bitterness are you giving that lager?
Probably around 25 IBU, I think. Yeah, top of my head.
And you doing the old traditional aroma hops sort of thing at 15 minutes, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's got a 30-minute, 10-minute edition, something like that. I don't think there's anything.
But no whirlpool sort of thing.
No whirlpool, nah.
Yeah, so it is made old school sort of.
Yeah, I find those kind of aromatics are what fades on a beer the fastest. So for your flavor stability, loading hops up earlier is definitely the way to go with those beers for me. For something like a Pilsner, I find dry hop Pilsners just don't hold their age, and a fresh one is definitely not the same as a 3-month-old one. And whereas a 3-month-old lager, my lager versus a fresh one they're pretty similar beer still. So I'm happy to have a bit more stability on shelf. Yeah,
me personally, I mean,
obviously there's some beers like IPAs you can't leave out your whirlpool or dry hop, but yeah.
I was going to say malt Europe Pilsner is actually a cracking malt. A lot of people sort of diss it on price, but I think it's got a really unique character. It's got that real green cut grass kind of note that none of the other Pilsners have it, and it kind of gives a real nice freshness.
Just because it's cheap. Yeah, just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's shit.
Nah. A lot of the price of malts and stuff is to do with what volume they're produced, or scarcity, or agronomics more than actual flavour and taste. I mean, taste the ingredients without looking at the price tag.
The main difference I've seen between them is with Gladfield, you get a consistency of the size of the grains, but with the malt Europe, they have a different kind of sorting system, I think, and the size seems to vary quite a bit more.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more variability in the size, and it's probably, I don't know if it's a function of their growers or the areas it's grown in versus.
At the end of the day, that probably gives you a bit more multi-dimensional of flavour and that kind of stuff, perhaps.
You can definitely make good beer with either malt we have. So, yeah.
I asked Dave Crow that question a couple of years ago, and he says because malt Europe draw from North Island and South Island barley, and that's the main size differential. Gladfield's pretty much just draw from South Island.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I've had the Gladfields guys up in the brewery and we've been using malt Europe, and they like get the malt out and looking in their hands, sizes all over the place. So whereas David Cryer going, oh yeah, it's just stuck. So
Is that is that going to affect how you crush the malt at all?
yeah, definitely go a little bit tighter with the malt Europe, but once you've set it, it's pretty much set and forget until we don't. Well, we've got tools to analyze our crush, but we kind of look at it every now and again and make sure we're in spec. And it's pretty much once you've got the settings, hold it there.
Tell us about the tools that look at the crush. So how do they work? What are they looking at?
It's a set of sieves that you're basically looking at the retention of certain particle sizes. So you're just looking that you're not got too many fines or too much coarse stuff, which you can pretty much tell from your lauder anyway, whether you go and not getting enough extract through the kettle or getting slow runoffs. So yeah, kind of diagnoses itself in the mash tun, and the sieve is just the extra tool to fine tune once you're playing around with the crush settings,
which affects your efficiency and affects your bottom line, I suppose.
Yeah, or it affects your time and whether you can't get your wort out of your mash tun. So
right,
yeah, which is a larger problem. But
yeah,
how many batches a day you're running at the moment?
Just 2, but we're running 7 days, so 2 a day, 7 days a week.
So how big a team have you got helping you there, Hamish?
Just employed 2 new people. So on the brew team, we're doing 4 days, 10 to 12 hours a day. So you get a 3-day weekend, which has been pretty popular. How many people have we got? I think there's 7 on the brew team. 6 or 7, I forget. It's hard. We've just employed 2, and then one of our brewers has gone to more social media. So fit a 2 out, 2 in, 1 out. Yeah, I think 6 or 7 is the roster number. I have to think of who's floating around. I'm only in there every other day at the moment, so kind of some people I don't see sometimes.
It's just something you were talking about there in the beginning. You were talking about the hospo, the sort of hospitality business, right? I think you mean like a brew pub and food and stuff like that. That you don't sound so keen on. What are the kind of? Because it sounds like, I mean, I don't know. If you think about being a home brewer and stuff, wouldn't it be fun to have your own brew pub?
It's the dream, right? Yeah.
So tell us how bad it is.
We've gone from well, we're a bit bigger now, but when we got rid of Browns Bay, we went from about 100 employees down to 14 employees. So that's a massive HR headache gone, because you can imagine that you're 14 people that work 40 to 60 hours a week, all in a stable environment, and all of more mature age, a lot less trouble to manage than your student / late teens, early 20s workforce. So the headache of having to manage staff like that is gone. I still have the odd headache, but definitely it's a massive multiplier. With bars, it's really, really easy to lose money. So if you take your eye off things for any short amount of time, you'll quickly find that your profit margins start declining. And yeah, it's just a massive management drain, especially when you're trying to make beer and sell beer at the same time.
So competitive as well, isn't it? It's just it's insane competition.
Yeah,
well.
Yeah. It's making the beer market's pretty competitive, definitely. There are good hospo operators out there, but you'll find they're pretty tightly run operations, and they'll
That's right.
definitely
They're
have
slick businesses.
yeah, good managers and overseeing things. Yeah. It's a lot harder when you've only got one bar to do that.
In terms of your hazies, are you changing the hazies much like the recipe, or are you just sort of changing up the hops a little bit?
I'm really happy with our base grist. For our lower ABV ones, definitely what they're more core beers, so Haze and Zenith, which are 330ml 6-pack beers. They have a bit of crystal in those to give them a bit more body as their lower ABV. But for the base grist, yeah, we may alter the amount of wheat from one to the other, a little bit more base malt and some. But yeah, generally, my take on hazies is they're all about the hops. Once you've got that base backbone kind of mouthfeel, then that you're happy with, then changing the hop profiles gives you the most flavor impact. That said, for our certain contract customers, they change them around all the time. So we do get a lot of experimentation on for other people's behalf, basically. So we get to see some of the impacts of changing things in your grist and what happens with those, and the fact that we keep ours the same probably is clear indication of what I think of that.
Yeah, the reason I asked is because I had there you go.
Do your contract customers supply their own ingredients?
Yeah. If they get there on time. If we have something that's the same, we'll substitute it in. If it doesn't,
Hey, Sean, how many nuts have you eaten tonight?
sorry, what were you saying, William?
It's just because I had a Misty Margie.
Yeah.
And then I've just started on your south side. And the base seems similar. There's definitely a different flavor, different hops, that sort of thing. But I sort of picked up a similar base flow.
Yeah, definitely the base profile, if you're talking about the malt / mouthfeel, should be pretty similar, although hopping can have an impact on that. But yeah.
Both bloody tasty. Really easy to drink. Really easy.
Yeah.
What's your water like? Are you having Silverdale? Are you having to do much water wise? Are you using RO water or?
Nah. Sorry. We're on town supply, so I think majority Waitakere, although I think probably running a fair bit more Waikato at the moment than we have been, or definitely over the last year. We do adjust all the water. All our hazies are really calcium and chloride heavy, just to soften the mouthfeel and lessen the bitterness impact from the hops. So yeah, we adjust water on all our recipes. So.
Is that something that you do for your contract customers? Do they sort of specify the water or
some do, and where they don't, we specify it for them to what we think it should be, but
what the style is.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have basically a chloride heavy profile and a sulfate heavy profile, or a balanced profile, and pretty much run one of those three.
So what do you do for your Pilsners and Lagers then?
They're not the chloride heavy. They're reduced, but we're still aiming for over between probably about 70 ppm calcium in those. So the only way to do that is to add calcium chloride and calcium sulfate.
Right.
But they're definitely more chloride heavy to just so that the bitterness doesn't get harsh.
So why are you adjusting those up from sort of essentially a neutral profile?
Nothing. I just find it's better for the yeast health, yeast flocculation. We've run them at pretty much no additions, and just everything works better with a bit more mineral in the all your brewing processes, like your mash, your boil, everything seems, and fermentation, flocculation, all those things I mentioned work a lot better with a bit of mineral in there.
Oh, interesting.
That's certainly our experience. So
On that mineral side, are you using, in terms of pH, are you using, an acidulated malt, or are you adding?
we just use phosphoric acid.
Oh yeah.
Free
You running
pour.
much sulfate in your hazy profile at all with the hops, or is it pretty much just?
There's definitely sulfate there. It's
Mm.
around 2-to-1 chloride sulfate. So definitely run some sulfate.
Yeah, you've got a nice clean profile in your hazy. There's no soapiness. So it's
Can I ask a couple of questions about the antivirus?
Sure.
Without delving into spike proteins and what have you, I didn't read the can, and when I first tried a few sips, from my glass, I was getting like a green grape skin kind of flavor there. It disappeared a little bit as I drank it, and then I looked and saw the Citra Mosaic and the Idaho 7, and I sort of wondered where that, maybe I've got it wrong, but that potential green grape skin sort of flavor comes into it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think I put it down to Mosaic, that one, I reckon. Mosaic definitely performs a lot differently in a clear beer than it does a hazy, like with the biotransformation. Find it's pretty much in all our hazies, maybe not all, but definitely most Mosaic. It's gives you a really nice fruity mango biotransformation profile. I don't tend to use it too much in clear beers. This wasn't my recipe, but I'm happy to give our other brewers a chance to go with it, and I love that beer. It's been a massive seller for us. It's probably going to replace Wisdom as our IPA that we make, I think, and it's got a really cool label. We've kind of gone down the track of getting artists to make labels or finding good art to kind of give you a bit more shelf appeal than we've kind of had in the past.
Yeah, it's an enjoyable beer. I kind of expected it to be a bit fatter, if you know what I mean, and it's not. It's quite crisp, and it's very easy drinking.
Yeah, it's along the kind of double IPA. So it's got some sugar in there and it's a Pilsner malt base as well. So it's really basically get out of the way of the hops. And a little bit of caramel hell. So it's a pretty light base for a beer like that.
No, thanks for that. That's interesting. It's it just wasn't what I expected. I expected something way kind of bigger and punchier, especially for the alcohol content, and yet it sort of wasn't. You have to get another one. More.
So you're going to share which one of the team got a gold star for the recipe, or is it going to be a state secret?
No, it's Kerry's recipe.
Okay.
Yeah, it was supposed to be entrant in the Malt House IPA challenge, but our first batch didn't go according to plan, so we had to put that one into the drain. But every subsequent batch has been awesome. That one just for some reason failed to ferment, and no idea what.
Yum beer.
Yeah,
you had to put it to the drain. I mean, it became nothing.
It was probably 10:30 something. It stalled it in the 10:30s for must have been like 2 weeks or something. So it was never going to attenuate, no matter what we tried. Pitch more yeast, just pitch fermenting wort into it. Just couldn't get it to take off again.
Try enzyme.
Yeah. Or put in the drain and start again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys playing around with much with? Sorry.
When we have a problem like that, we'll make a call to hold on dry hops, because that basically doubles the cost of what you're putting in the drain, or worse. So we'll look for issues like that in our fermentations, and be prudent when things may or may not be going wrong.
What would, like in terms of possibly what went wrong with that batch? Was it yeast vitality, or is it?
I've got no idea, because we pitched perfectly healthy yeast into it afterwards, and there's plenty of available sugar there, and it just still wouldn't kick off. So I'm not sure.
Look, it's like a lot of things. They don't often work out when you're trying new things.
Yeah, I could do a thesis on
across all. Like I'm in software development, and it's like you don't really know what you're getting into. You're trying stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't work, and you
have
to abandon. Yeah, you have to bail out at the right time as well. You have to know when to quit. Yeah.
That's like most reliable yeast. Stuff like that happens with the hazy yeast from time to time, but the first time we've had that happen, I just put it down to Kerry's recipe and pat on the back and said, "Try again next time, mate." It was certainly nothing I could tell that we've done wrong.
No, you can't often.
You playing around with enzymes?
Start again.
Enzymes. I've done a few. So like MLA's gonna enzyme. Is that what you're thinking, Dave? Or
just in general, it's like everyone seems to be playing. Well, some people are playing a little bit more with these days. I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, no one would touch with a barge pole, and now they're sort of becoming a little bit more.
Yeah, we've done the Brute IPA thing with enzymes in the mash, which we made good beers with those. It's just they don't really sell. So, or maybe it's a one-off or something like that. Might do. We use Clerics a bit for our orange beers to reduce gluten. The new owner of Deep Creek is the Browns Bay is gluten intolerant, so he's pretty much the reason we started making all our core beers with Clerics to drop gluten.
Because you can't say, you can only say it's reduced, right? Because
pretty much. People have had them tested and they're like down low enough, but for celiacs out there, you can't say it's zero gluten.
There's also food regs. If it was ever above the threshold, then you're not allowed. It's just paperwork, but
I mean, it is a good marketing point, but the chances of it being blowing up in your face, I mean, it's not worth putting it on your labels or anything. But for word of mouth, they said everyone who needs reduced gluten beer knows who's using Clerics around, so they tend to get ordered more.
Does there have any other impacts in terms of beer stability or any other kind of bits and pieces that you notice apart from?
They do make a big deal about the stability, but we use Rubrite, which in our clear beers, which tends to knock down the polyphenols that the Clerics eats up as well. So we kind of didn't get those. We dealt with that stability issue long before using Clerics. They make some claims about improving filterability, but we don't filter enough beer to have any experience with that being true or not. So, it doesn't hurt. Heard of some people using them in their hazies. I can kind of counters what you're trying to. You're throwing in so much wheat and hop that you then need to throw in heaps of clerics to counteract that, and this kind of seems
counterintuitive.
Yeah, you're not going to get celiacs going after the hazies, are you? Or not something we've thought about.
Do oats have gluten? Do oats have gluten?
I think so.
And do you use the big O from Gladfields at all?
I think we've used it definitely in a couple of contract beers. But yeah, we don't tend to use malted oats at all. Like a few times, but we've used the Thomas Fawcett from Cryer. Haven't really.
Oh, that's a malted oat, is it? The Thomas Fawcett do one as well, do they?
They have an oat malt, yeah. But yeah, haven't used it in a long time. I think we left Gladfields just after they'd started doing the Big O, so didn't really have a chance to play around with it. Yeah, once you've got one supplier that you use for everything, it's more it's easier just to stick with one supplier and get the benefits of reduced pricing.
So after working 12 hours in a brewery, I suppose you don't come home and home brew on the weekend then?
No, my home brewing days are over. Actually, the lockdown made me consider brewing again because I had a bit of time around the house, although I was still working. But it just seemed that if I was at home, I could work and brew at the same time.
Yeah, that's a fallacy no one quite achieves.
Yeah, I started considering where I'd be putting all my fermenters and everything, and yeah, quickly the idea lost appeal.
In terms of what you would homebrew versus obviously commercial scale, like what's your mindset change between how you brew those or how you design the recipe?
I don't know. I was kind of, when I was homebrewing, I was reasonably cost conscious, and now I don't think I'd care at all about how much and how many ingredients or what the quality of ingredients were, because I realized at the time is the biggest impact, even though it's a hobby. The time you spend on it, and then the result you get out.
So true. Yep.
Might as well throw money in a pot, or I wouldn't care at all about ingredient costs. So that would be definitely a different mindset to commercial scale. And I don't know, with commercial, we've got really good access to ingredients, so like fruits and stuff like that you just can't get on. So let's say you wanted passion fruit puree. I've got my pack of probably about 5 different things I could get commercial size that I don't think I could reproduce. But if I wanted to use fresh fruit, I couldn't use. I just can't deal with 200 kgs of watermelon like we used to be able to. So I think there's an advantage with using probably fresh fruit ingredients, stuff like that, versus. So
yeah, then also like from a hopping point of view, like when you're doing real small scale, as you say, it's not a lot of, whether you're doing a little bit or a lot in a homebrew scale, it's not going to make a lot of cost difference. What sort of hopping dosage are you doing with the commercial scale? Because obviously you're looking at versus flavor.
Yeah, we're not too shy about throwing in hops. So our typical dry hop is about 10 to 15 grams a litre, and the dry hop for our hazies. So I think when I was homebrewing, I would have that amount would have freaked me out, putting that much hops in beer. But that's probably like 15 years ago versus now. Actually, this beer here is probably my this is a homebrew version. Well, this is a version of a homebrew that we'd made on a commercial scale. It's a 2,000 litre Imperial Stout called Figaro. I can't see it, and it's backwards.
Yeah, nice.
But we got 40 kgs of dried figs, and over a weekend boiled those up with wort and reduced them to make basically a fig caramel. So I basically spent an entire weekend chopping up figs, boiling figs, caramelizing figs, and wort that I'd grabbed from the brewery. And so what I must have reduced basically 50 odd litres of wort down to about 10 litres, something like that. So, or maybe a bit more like 20. And then that went in. So basically spent a weekend of labour making, pouring into this beer. And it was all Caroline's idea that we should do that. And now she's never again. but it's the kind of thing where there's no way I'd do that for Deep Creek because I'd be paying someone to do it. Whereas with my own company, it's my labour. I don't care so much about it within reason. So
yeah, it makes no economic sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Economics come into it big time.
Yeah.
It's a lovely Imperial Stout. I mean, it's really drinkable from the thing. When 16 ton, we're clearing out their kegs. I was dumb enough to go and then get a 2 litre of it, and not many Imperial Stouts I could knock through 2 litres of. But man, that is, I mean, it's big, but it's balanced.
Yeah, it's I've been really happy with how that came out. So,
who has cans of that?
Hopefully it's going to Faro shortly. Otherwise,
Okay.
No Liquorland, Newmarket, and Forest Hill took a bunch of it.
Okay, I checked 3 different supermarkets today and I couldn't find it.
Oh, it's not in supermarkets, so
yeah. Well, Faro was one of them. The green.
Yeah, no, it hasn't gone into Faro, but it might soon. We just gave them some samples. So.
Perhaps you can give us a nudge when it's released, Hamish, and we can send people on out scouring and buy most of the stock.
Sure.
It sounds really delicious, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think the figs the figs are pretty subtle in it, but it just is an Imperial Stout. It's just like,
yeah. I think the figs, like, they don't really have a strong flavour, but they add a real richness to the beer. So
At what stage are you adding the figs? Is that
so
early in the ferment or
they
after?
went, they're basically sugar. So they went early in the ferment.
Right, because I've been playing around with honey and beers, and there's a few different thoughts about whether the honey goes in early or late.
Yeah, because they're pretty caramelized. I wasn't expecting a hell of a lot of simple sugar, whereas honey's got quite a lot of simple sugar. So
yeah,
this the worry with putting it in early would be that you biased your yeast towards sucrose or versus maltose, so they might get lazy on you. But yeah,
that Figaro sounds nice. I'm going to have to find some. I like the idea of figs and beer. That sounds nice.
It's kind of a molasses flavour.
You got any tips for making a mess? Because I mean, the big thing that struck me about Figaro is, I mean, it's a big beer. I mean, there's a lot of guts in that beer. Yet it's ridiculously well rounded and really balanced. It's so smooth on the palate. I mean, how do you make a beer that big and sort of, stop it being sort of just loud, noisy, and a bit obnoxious, like still keep it sort of balanced, refined, and rounded?
Yeah, I was expecting it to take a while to age, and it's got a lot of roast barley in there. It's got 50 kgs of roast barley, so it's got a lot of roasted character. And I was expecting that to definitely take a while to settle down. So yeah, I was probably as surprised as anyone that
it's massive, but it's got no bite.
Yeah, it's 65 IBUs as well, as which I think is pretty much bang on. I was thinking a lot of ones we've made for other people have been a bit more than that, up in the like 80s or 90s, and for me, that definitely makes them take a lot longer to age to drinkability. So maybe going low might hurt its longevity, but I don't think so. It's got just so much roast character that it should be pretty stable.
And in terms of your stout, like, are you adding all your dark malts at the same time as you're mashing everything else, or are you doing like a late mash on those?
Everything just goes in at the same time. It's with the auger and hydrator and all that stuff. It's just easy to put it all in one shot rather than kind of stage when it goes in. But with that said, we've done that for other contract customers in the past. Done only throw the dark malt in right at the basically start of lauter.
Have you noticed any difference on that?
Maybe it reduces the harshness of it a bit, but yeah, it's probably splitting hairs, I think.
You mentioned a bit earlier, and I can't remember, you were using phosphoric acid in there.
Yep.
I imagine that's a pH thing. I've never played around. I've just started using lactic, and I did a brew today and threw some lactic acid in there, and it didn't hit the pH rate, and I threw some more in, still didn't drop. And I thought, I don't want to go too far with this because I've heard that lactic can have a bit of a taste, whereas phosphoric's a little bit cleaner. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, apparently lactic is not approved as a food ingredient for beer. Someone told me once. So that's why we don't use that. And lactic definitely does have a flavor impact, although it may not necessarily be a bad flavor impact. I think a little bit of a lactic character, it's quite good, and certainly would in darker beers not be amiss. Yeah, we just use phosphoric because it's easy, it's stronger, so you don't need to use as much. And yeah, it's a good tool to have for rather than trying to use acidulated malt, which is basically adding lactic acid anyway, because it's just malt that's been basically sour mashed and then kilned. So you just it's a way for the Germans to get around the Reinheitsgebot.
Just on the topic of your beers, like a food product, what are the regulations of beer? I'm just looking at both of these cans. I haven't looked at this before, but nowhere on this can does it say beer. And like so it's obviously has some place in the food laws.
I don't know if you have to say that it's beer. Probably do. Stout is a type of beer, though, right? So
you don't have to in New Zealand.
I think
the name tells you what it is.
Yeah, thanks to the big breweries, the laws around labeling a beer is very, very basic. I think we're looking at the regulations, and it's got it.
Yeah, cool.
Beer must be contain beer or something like that. It's really we've just been going through our food inspection recently, and so what does it need to be beer? I looked up the statute, and it was beer must be beer. And
you just said you're not supposed to use lactic acid in beer. What about things like these, like using these different enzymes and clarifying agents, silica, gelatin? These are all just processing aids. Is that what they're
processing aids.
So you don't have to declare any of that?
No, I wouldn't mind so much if the regulations tightened up a bit, because I think some people out there are playing a little bit fast and loose with what goes in. If I put lactose in a beer, I'd like to think that was on the side of the can, because people have issues with lactose. if you're putting flavorings on the side of in your beer, you should be putting that on the side of the can too. So I think the regulations could definitely stand to tighten up. But yeah, I don't think they're going to. So,
but then you got to pull into food sort of safeties and everything else like that. And the moment you do that, the cost of compliance is going to go through the roof.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I know what you mean, and they should be a bit more disclosing, but
yeah, I think voluntarily doing that wouldn't be a bad thing.
No, absolutely.
The day I put lactose in a beer, it'll be on the side of a can. So
yeah, but that's
one
the thing.
quick
Some
question
of
for you,
these.
'cause-
That's the thing. Some of these, some of these different food groups, like I know that, like the natural products, they put their own little group of people together. That kind of created a, what laws should we hold ourselves on? So if anytime the government steps in and says, hey, you guys aren't regulated, say, hey, no, we do have our own group here, and we are doing self-regulation. This is the rules that we abide by.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that kind of out there?
I think the big breweries have been lobbying long and hard on our behalf over the years for there to be as little regulation as possible. Industry wise, I think it's too young and too small an industry. A collective of small players is too few, and we've all got a lot on our plates. So to get something like that together is maybe a few years down the track.
But like you said, it's unfair that you kind of do the hard yards, create a special flavor, and somebody else just has a flavoring, eh?
Yeah, I don't harbor a grudge around that. We all know who does that. So
you could go the other way though, and specify that your beer doesn't have caramel added or doesn't have this added. Like they do that with whiskey. They'll say non-chill filtered and no caramel, no colouring.
Yeah,
and that's how you know they're the good ones.
Yeah, we should put vegan friendly on the side of the cans. But in making this beer or the Figaro, I learned that figs are not vegan friendly because
they use a wasp.
Wasp gets trapped in the male flower. I think it is.
That's how they're pollinated. Yeah.
So yeah, that's why there's no vegan friendly on the side of the can. I thought people would think we put lactose in.
Read up about it. It's really interesting.
That's going straight into the useless fact file. That's brilliant.
Someone told me what one of our packaging team told me, and I was like, oh shit, thank you. You saved me being an idiot. and the vegans come for me. Vegan friendly.
But nothing worse than an enraged vegan.
Well, mate, they're Millicent, those bastards.
There was a little bit of talk recently about brewers having to put a whole list of food-related facts on their
nutrition panel
beers. Have you heard anything about that, Hamish? Because that would sort of make it really difficult to analyze everything in the beer.
That would kill the craft beer industry.
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You look at what food producers have to go through each product in terms of quantification, all the just.
The testing would take forever and cost.
Think how many people make one-off beers. Those would be a thing of the past. Everything would trend back towards big brewery single product. Green bottle lager.
Control beers.
If you want that to be the future.
There's two big caveats as to why beer's never been put under food regs, and one because of the pH, and two because of the alcohol level, and the fact that botulism and E. coli and things that can kill you can't exist in that medium. So it's always been exempt from food regs, and long may it stay that way, because shit, if it doesn't, watch the price of your beer go up about 30% overnight, and innovation is going to go out the window.
But what regs are beer currently managed?
We're under the food regulations, but they're pretty loose. So just because we're making a stable product. So
to make beer, you have to have a food compliant facility, and then everything else is good.
We're under the it's National Program 3 is the food grade level we're under, which is definitely hoops you got to jump through, and as you should have to if you're.
So long as the tax is paid, it's not a problem.
Yeah, and we did make one beer where we put a nutrition panel on the side of our can, where we made a low calorie beer called Low Cal, which we still make. it's under 100 calories in a 330 ml can, so we call it low cal. And so we sent that away for testing. It was 92 calories all up. So yeah, that was the one beer. Did we make a claim on it? I don't think so. I don't think you can claim that beer.
That's a good move. I mean, but you guys never really much of a song and dance about it because everyone else is doing their low carb beers, but all they're doing is, I mean, they're moving the calories from sugar to booze.
Yeah,
and I mean, that's a really good selling proposition. I mean, it's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, we have a lot of people that that go to the tap room to buy that. It is available in some supermarkets, but
are they diabetic or
they just don't want to? They're health conscious, basically. So,
but the reality is there's
health conscious on beer.
There's barrel carbohydrates in beer anyway, right?
So drink beer then.
it's quite a lot.
Yeah. And there's a lot of alcohol. I mean, like, all your low carb beer, it's all what happens is the carbs shift to, they get fermented through the alcohol. Alcohol's got almost the same calorific value as carbs. I mean, it's just moving from
it's more like fat. It's 7 calories per gram. So whereas 4 calories for a carb. So it's higher energy content than carbs.
Just on that, you said you're using phosphoric before. Like, are you guys trying to aim for a specific pH in your mash and stuff like that?
Yeah, as long as we're between 5.4, 5.2, we're happy. So yeah, we're aiming around 5.3.
And is that across the board or specific beers, or I mean, obviously they're mostly hazies.
Hazies, you need to add quite a lot because there's it's basically the darker the grass and IPH. So hazies being all pretty unkilned light ingredients, they need a fair amount of phosphoric to get the pH in the right range.
Well, that surprises me. I wouldn't have thought that'd be different from a Pilsner sort of thing.
Yeah, Pilsner's had a little bit, but I guess it's all the oats and wheat.
Calcium phosphate gets released during the malting process. It's unbound.
Right.
That's why you might read a lot of literature that's sort of about anti-phosphoric acid, because Palmer and a bunch of the other water guys from about 4 or 5 years, well, probably 10 years ago, there was a theory that if you're putting like phosphates, interact with the calcium ions to drop the pH, and that's how your typical mash pH works. And if you're putting phosphoric acid in it would bind and strip the calcium out of your beer. But then that was all disproven by, I think it was Charlie Bamforth's team did at UCD, that showed it was a bit of, good concept, but actually didn't happen in reality. So then, so that's if you read stuff that's got a bias often towards phosphoric, that's where that came from. It just sort of got a whole lot of traction for no reason. Sorry, bit off topic. Hey, one question I asked you, mate. Kettle sours, because that's one sort of range that you guys are just absolutely nailing in terms of just like really good, really clean, fruit forward kettle sours. I think you sort of got a bit of an ownership position on that one at the moment. What's your process there? I mean, how are you doing your kettle souring? I mean, quite a few people playing around with that at the moment, dabbling in Philly sour and a few other bits and pieces.
Yeah, I haven't read too much about the Philly sour or tried many beers out of that. Just we've got our process, we're happy with it. So basically for us, we're doing a double batch usually, and to make it time efficient, we'll do one kettle sour where it goes through the full boil, pitch, or take it back to about 42 degrees, pitch lacto and sour overnight. And then at the same time, we'll sour in the mash tun. So we'll do a mash, hour long mash like normal, take that back to 40 degrees and then sour in the mash tun as well, pitch lacto, sour in there. Means we can make 4,000 litres in 2 days instead of having to use the kettle 2 times in a row.
You're doing a full boil on what's in the mash or mash tun, or just a knock?
The day after we'll boil it, yeah. But basically it doesn't get up to hot enough to kill anything. And
you have a DMS issue from that, or
no? It's pretty clean. We're a little bit concerned that we're prepared to dump the first one we ever made if it was no good, but tasting the work the next day, it was clean and almost preferable to the cleaner kettle sour version. So we've kept on doing that, and it works really well for us.
Doing the combo.
So you basically you boil do a full process, then you sour it in the kettle, and then you sour another batch.
Do the batch behind it in the
mash.
In the mash.
And then what do you and then how long do you boil that, or what do you do to knock it?
Next day we'll boil the first batch sitting in the kettle, and then we'll lauter the second. We'll dump in a whole heap of hot water to try and lift that up to a more favourable lautering temperature. We'll lauter that through to the kettle and boil for an hour like normal. So
cool. Okay. That's probably enough to knock out the DMS anyway. So yeah.
So you think by doing the two, you're getting a different profile between the two?
Yeah, they're slightly different. Occasionally, if we're doing, we've done different beers for different people. One's just been the straight mash sour, and one's been the kettle sour, and the mash sour is definitely a little bit different, but not a lot really. I'm not too concerned about. I think I made Gone Troppo as the mash sour before, and it's been perfectly fine. Definitely a little bit different to normal, but yeah, not enough to be concerning. And
what's your lactose source?
So I was just about to say that, Dave. We made a culture from grain about 3 or 4 years ago when we first started making these. Basically made a starter, 20-litre starter, dumped in a handful of German wheat and held it at 40 degrees, 42 degrees over a weekend. And we used to do that every time we were making kettle sour. And then we started harvesting basically the soured wort the next time we used it. And we've been running that mother culture for a long time. It's probably at least 4 years old. It's been. We haven't gone back to grain again. It's our, I guess, house lacto culture.
Wicked.
So it's.
I think the sour profile in your kettle sours is awesome. It's got this beautiful, clean, tight sourness, but you got none of that little ammonia kind of kick on the side that you can kind of get from some of them. It's bitching.
Yeah. I think when we were first starting out, we tried straight lacto, like a clean culture, and it just it's too one-dimensional. And I just find the beers with pure lacto to be just almost too clean, but not enough complexity. We found the grain culture, it can be a little bit more sulfury. What you get along with that is a lot more complexity and the sour flavor of the beer, which I like. So
if you're home brewing, you'd use a bit of grain as your souring sauce.
Yeah, I think so. It might be a little bit slow, so that's why we did the starter. But I think if time is your friend, then and you don't need to get the kettle in use again as soon as possible. You can wait in a bit of time. Then I'd just probably go with grain. And we found the German wheat was the best one. We tried Pilsner or a bunch of different grains, but the German gave us the best one, so the best sour profile.
That's just the malted wheat, or the
it was the Viamin wheat malt. So
sweet.
Can't remember when
The opposite of sweet, Dave.
Yeah. So, yeah. On that, we're just about to launch a new range of sour, fruited sours, and these I think are coming out. It's going to be next Friday, but we're doing an online tasting thing on Friday, and they'll be launched shortly after that, if not on the Friday. Basically 3 beers that have fruit added at the end of fermentation. So once the beers crash, so it's still got the sugar from the fruit in there.
And those trillium, those bitchin',
yeah,
keep refrigerated or they blow up.
Oh no, they're pasteurized. So
you pasteurizing them?
Yeah, so they're so far they're stable.
Oh, cool. So what you said, like you're dosing massive fruit post fermentation and then pasteurizing.
Yeah, they're basically
15%
fruit. Yeah, we got mango tango is mango passion fruit. Hey Pena is pineapple, raspberry lime, and Berrylicious is we got raspberry, blackberry, cherry. So they're the 3 ranges, and we've got some pretty cool art that goes on those cans. Probably spent more time developing the art than we did the recipes, but that's because everyone has faith in me. So the artists,
but is now that's the way.
They less faith in the artists.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Obviously, you bring them.
I had to match my recipe to a label.
And you bring on a big scale. I mean, like how much time you put into brewing development versus actually just.
Our recipe development is pretty much on a full scale batch. So we'll tweak stuff, but we're usually not too far away from where we want to be on a first batch. So yeah, it's a little bit seat of the pants, but we've got a little bit of experience in doing that. So, and faith, I guess, that I'm not going to do too bad a job. So yeah, we're always prepared to dump beer. So it's
just cracked up on the Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, nice.
Yes, she's good.
Well, Hamish, you've generously given us probably nearly 2 hours now, by the looks of it, or hour and a half.
Yeah.
So if you want to bugger off, you're very welcome. But if you want to stay and chat, it's.
I'm having fun. It's good. I'll hang around for a bit longer.
Just
what beers do you want to make if the accountant's not looking over your shoulder then?
I'd love to make more Figaro.
It's a cracking beer, man. Seriously, I just like, holy crap. I mean, yeah. If you guys want a really good Imperial Stout reference, whether it's fruited or not, I just thought, wow.
Yeah. Well, it's gone into the awards, so we'll see how it goes on in a week's time.
Well, the only other commercial one I know, Imperial Stout like that with fig is the Epic one with a fig and coffee.
I think
Epicurean.
Yeah. But Kuru do one as well, I think. Actually, there are about 3 fig beers released at the same time. Us was one. The Small Gods Beer Jet guys did one.
Yeah.
Small Gods Milk Cult.
Right.
And then there was another one, Emporium, possibly. Can't remember who it was. No, I don't think it was Emporium, but there were basically 3 fig beers out at the same time, and I was most shocked but yeah, I don't think anyone did it like I did, spending a weekend to caramelize figs. So, yeah.
You could try doing them in the oven, caramelizing them.
Yeah, I wanted and because they're dried, you've got to rehydrate them and then reduce that down. So
and pull the wasps out.
Nah, then they'd be vegan friendly.
White Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
Yeah, I've experimented a bit. I tried like hitting them with a blowtorch and seeing if that would but that just turned them to ash. So I figured rehydrating and kind of making a caramel that way was the way to go.
Rehydrating with warts.
Yeah, you had all that sugar there to begin with, so it was definitely a head start on the process.
Do you know of anybody who's done a date beer then? Given that people are experimenting with figs, dates are probably not that far away from figs.
I think those
Do you
two
have a
chips
date
that
night?
went up north did that, didn't they?
That's all rumor, I think.
Yeah, there's probably some good names for that beer, I'd say.
Okay. Do you think you're fitting my boot, mate? Sorry.
They spread the
I'm
virus.
glad I had my antivirus tonight.
Good fit 2 of me in the boot now.
The other thing I'll say about the Figaros is, I mean, like, yeah, it's already well to get into adjuncts and everything else like that, but yeah, if you don't know your base beer, it's pretty hard. I mean, like for me, I thought the figs, I know what you mean. They had that nice earthiness, that nice richness. I almost get quite an earthiness of it, but just I'm blown away by the base beer.
Yeah, I thought the base beer was so good. I just put it straight into the Imperial Stout category. Like the adjuncts are kind of more background. So let's see if I'm crazy. I think I might have been.
And I wasn't able to find any Isthmus beers tonight, so I just sort of grabbed a couple of Deep Creeks. What's the design philosophy between the two of them? Like, what was your differentiation? As somebody says, what's a Deep Creek versus your personal brand?
Yeah, basically, yeah. The Isthmus beers are the beers I want to make without any. I don't have commercial oversight so much, or having to hit price point for ingredients, stuff like that. That said, Deep Creek doesn't really impose those conditions on me too much. I just always mindful of that a bit more with the Deep Creek beers. Yeah, basically, yeah, with no. They're my free beers to make. I can make whatever I want. So
yeah,
that's what I do. Or what Caroline wants me to do, because she.
I was going to say, you get to sleep with the oversight, don't you?
Yeah, she really loves sours, so we're looking at a sour range at the moment as well. So hopefully start some work on that over the summer, or start some work as in release a beer over the summer, first of that kind of range.
So you're saying that
doesn't it always
breweries don't go well together?
What's that? Sorry, the
accountants and breweries don't go well together.
Yeah. We don't have accountants at Deep Creek, so
no one makes beer for money.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that. Doesn't it always turn into a business though? Beer.
Yeah, it does. Definitely scale has its part to play in that. But that said, like
unless you have got money to burn, unless you have just huge money to play.
Yeah.
But it must come out in the final price of the beer though. Like if hazies, for instance, you're throwing twice, 3 times, 4 times as much hops at a hazy, and those costs accelerate up there. So and your customs and excise costs go up a little bit for percentages of alcohol. So
if you're too expensive on shelf, you don't get taken off the shelf by the customer. So that's the ultimate decision maker in the process, is what the customer is prepared to pay to sell it sell enough beer.
That's the bizarre thing. If you look out there at the moment on the shelves, the price between a high ingredient cost beer and low is often bugger all. It's more based on pricing seems to be pretty indexed to ABV these days, which is a bit strange.
That's the largest part of the cost. So yeah.
I only got one question, mate. You're still going to keep making the 3D?
Yeah, definitely. 3D is about to go into supermarkets. So
the world's not going to end. We can have COVID, but as long as we've got 3D, I'm happy.
As long as people keep buying it, I'll keep making it. So that's
I'm doing my best.
It's a two-way street, man. Yeah, you'll see it in your local countdown if you have a popular local countdown. I think we're going to 43 stores, so
cool.
They will have patched the the highest.
Is it going to survive their DC?
No, it's going direct from us, so it's.
Oh
not
shit!
going
So
to
you're
DC.
doing direct to store?
Yeah. So.
Oh, wicked!
Countdown have got the new category manager is pretty keen to shake up what they've been doing, so they're going to get a lot better in the next from the next month or so, I'd say. And they're moving away from they're moving more towards the foodies, having kind of more one-offs rather than static ranges. So, so I think their range is going to get a lot better, because they've definitely been the weak point in craft beer and supermarkets for sure.
Yep.
And
yeah, Countdown's been rubbish.
yeah,
I move a fuck ton of beer. I mean, that's the big thing, is they're shit at it, but man, they move beer.
Yeah, but everything's in a 6-pack with Countdown, or bigger. So
they're moving away from that. So I think it's going to get a bit better. But
that's awesome news, man.
That's it.
No, seriously, it's brilliant.
I'm about to move into 6-pack, so they better start taking my stuff.
If I can buy a 6-pack of your lager and I can still get 3D, I'm a happy man.
As long as you don't care that it's in a black can, because I couldn't get silvers.
I know.
Still the same beer.
When I'm buying my beer, I get mine from Eden up at the Fresh Brew Company.
Yeah, we sell a bit through Fresh Beer.
And he's bloody good. And his prices are for a single sort of guy. He's not a big cartel like Countdown or whoever else. And he's passionate about his beers, and he has a really great range. And I'm much happier to support a little local guy like him, who's up against the trusts as well.
Oh, he's the trust, yeah.
Then the
I
big
think we might have sent him some Figaro last week, I think. Bring that
I'll track him down for some Figaro then. He recommended me the Antivirus, so that's where I got that from. So
cool. Yeah, he's been
big ups to Eden.
Gone Troppo as well. He's taken a bit of that off us. So yeah, he's a good supporter.
3D that's bouncing around in the market at the moment. When was that batch last? When was the last batch of 3D that you did? Because the BBs
April.
on it were a while ago, earlier in the year. But
April possibly.
That's holding up really well. Had a can.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Like a lot of the stuff that's I've had some comments from friends. Stuff that's been in DC warm since April hasn't been so good, but some of it's been cold stored and it's been fine. And I've had cans of it that have been cold stored, and yeah, it's held really well.
Have you found, like, are you guys cold transporting, or you just like see them on?
We cold store, but transport it ambient, but it's like next day kind of thing. So at worst, usually it's delivered in by a man in a van rather than a courier. So
up next,
yeah, it was Typhoon that we sent Eden, which is our hazy double IPA, and some Gone Troppo. So it wasn't Figaro. Give him a kick. Tell him you want some Figaro here.
Yeah. No, I'll tell him that. So I know I'll try what he's got though, because I was impressed with the Antivirus. That was very nice.
You still going to run with your Cloud series as well? Is that still an evolving project? Or just had a bit of
we've got a fresh batch of Ceres out probably Monday. So it's in tank. It's probably due to clear diacetyl tomorrow. So yeah, from next week we'll have that. And then we've got Stratus is the last release in that series, which we'll bring out kind of December, around then, November, December, which is pretty soon. So I should probably brew that again.
Is Nimbus gone burger?
Yeah, it was. So I've done Nimbus, Cumulus, I think is pretty much.
Yeah, Cumulus was lovely.
Ceres, we're kind of doing 2 brews for each one. We've done 1 brew of Ceres, and then kind of COVID's got in the way a bit of delaying the second brew, but we've foolishly done that in the lockdown.
I think they're a really cool style of hazy.
Yeah, and then Stratus will be the last one, and then we'll do something new. I think.
Move on from
or
Clouds.
or we'll just redo them.
Cumulonimbus. You're running with
Yeah,
it.
sure. No, we've got some ideas about where we want to take that.
A lot of clouds.
The direction of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cumulonimbus was going to be the double IPA 'cause it's a bit angry, but then we went to Typhoon for the double of that range.
Was it Typhoon you mentioned as along with the Hello Ground that you'd sent to Eden?
Gone Tropo.
Gone Tropo.
Gone Tropo, yeah.
Okay, I'll give them a try.
And that's a passion fruit mango sour.
Okay. Not a big sour fan, but I'm willing to give it a try. So
Need to change this.
Yeah, you see it's the orange and yellow label.
There we go.
To be fair, I think a lot of people are non-sour fans. Then, when they try a decent one, then they become one.
They're
yeah, I
really
think you're
good on
probably
a-
right, William. I have tried a couple that I really like, and I've tried a whole bunch that need to keep working at it.
They're pretty
For a long
refreshing. They're my go-to from after a hard day's work because they're a really good kind of palate cleansing beer.
Yeah, very summery as well, I think.
Yeah, for me, it's climate. Yeah, summertime sours and stouts and porters in winter.
They definitely pick up for sales wise over summer, but yeah, it doesn't put me off being cold.
For a long time, I mean, like so many brewers are just targeting how low can you go, how sour can you make this, and it was just there was a lot of shit out there. And a number of times I see someone go out and sort of get their mates into sour, and it's like taking them out for a curry night. But they don't ease them into it. They go out for the piping hot fucking vindaloo and give them some bitching sour that takes you a bit of a while to work to. You get a good kettle sour, fruit based thing, or even just your Solera based program produces some lovely balanced sours. You think you might win championship beer again this year?
No. No. You can never think you're going to win that because there's just so many beers. It'd be nice though. I'd be pretty happy if we did. We put some pretty good beers in there, so I'm just happy with what we put in. We'll see if
check it's in the right category, I suppose.
We'll see if that holds up with the judges. So
cool.
Different judging panel this year. They don't have.
That's going to be weird, eh?
Quality Auckland judges involved.
Well, you look at who's there. That I know they did a big whip round about 2 weeks out just to fill the. I mean, it's a bit of, you know what's going on. Yeah,
they did a whip around, kind of when the Australian judges can come over. So yeah, take all the Aucklanders out. I'm sure there's some good people on there. So got plenty of faith that they'll do a good job or have done a good job.
Do you run your own packaging line, Hamish? Like canning and bottling?
Yeah, we have a canning line at Deep Creek.
What about bottles? What do you do for that?
We have a small four-head kind of manual bottling machine, but we don't do many bottles, so it's pretty labor intensive. It takes us about maybe 4 hours or so to do 500-600 liters, something like that. So it's pretty slow going, but the fact.
Any reason you don't just chuck it through your cans in?
We can't heat sanitize our canning line, so
yeah.
I don't want to put our barrel program into our main program.
Yeah.
It's already close enough being in the same building, so yeah, definitely.
What do you got coming up in the Wildwood?
Packaging Solera this week. So
cool. Was that the one you had on keg down at Bevana?
Yeah, that was a.
Oh shit, that's good.
That was a sneak preview that we just pulled out for Bevana, and yeah, we need to get that in package. So we're doing 1,000 liters of that on Friday, I think. And then with all the stuff we're doing for the brewery works, we're probably gonna have to mothball that for until next year.
Serious?
Yeah, we're gonna all that stuff's got to move out of the way because that's kind of where the mill and grist case are going down that end. So got to make a bit of room.
Are you going to keep the base Solera or are you going to start from scratch?
I think we'll keg off the dregs and store that, and then when we start again, pitch that along with some fresh sack and lacto. So we'll retain it as best we can, but that Solera's never been cleaned, so I was a little bit gutted today when we decided that we're going to empty it and not refill it straight away.
So that could be the secret sauce, man.
I know. And
No,
then we're
seriously,
talking
because
about
you got a real distinctive profile in terms of your wild beers, and it's so balanced and it's so laid back. It's got so much depth.
Yeah, I love the Sauvage.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just fill it straight up again.
Yeah.
Move it full. Yeah,
We'll come out and we'll man the pumps to make it happen if that's what's
such
needed.
such a tall, skinny tank that moving it full could be the shit. So,
Right.
yeah, it definitely needs to be empty, unfortunately.
Mm. But no, it's something that you're quite unique about. I mean, like, you know, I think, you know, every brewery's got its own sort of like different kind of wild profile. Yours is really distinct.
I'm sure we can recreate it.
Good.
Yeah.
Anyone's interested in interesting sours, Mo is clearing the shit out of their ones at the moment at a stupid price. You buy 6 of sour grapes or the sour cherries for $25 at the moment, and it's they're just dumping stock, mate. They're just blowing it.
Who's that? Sorry,
Moa.
Where at?
PMU, is that what you're drinking?
Buy direct from them. $25 for you know, like, so I grabbed a dozen of the sour cherry. So 375s, and it's interesting. It's pretty good. And sour grapes, 25 for a 6 or 50 for a dozen, including freight.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
These are beers that were selling for $15, $20 a bottle. You know.
Yeah, we got a bunch of those. One of the ex-employees worked for us for a few months, and then left to the States a couple of months ago, and he brought in his reserves and donated them to everyone. So yeah, I've got a few kicking around, but yeah, they're pretty sharp at that price.
Oh yeah. Dave doesn't give a shit because he's out of there now, but otherwise he would have been livid.
Yeah, he's probably buying some.
Yeah, quietly. He was the one who told me to go get him.
I mean, just on that, like, yeah, how do you?
Just crash the website.
I was just going to do it myself.
Yeah.
Let's go. I've got mine now. I'll let you guys can go for it.
Take it in turns, guys.
In terms of your costs, I mean, obviously you got to look at, you got a distribution chain. We don't really have tap house, that sort of thing. So you got to, be considerate of, having a margin for the retailers, I guess, as well.
Mm-hmm.
It also means, I guess, you can't vary out beers too much often either.
Yeah, I guess the positive of having a distributor is that they take a lot of that staff overhead of sales, but there's definitely a lot of overhead in working with them as well. So kind of cuts both ways. No one's ever 100% happy with their distributor that I've ever talked to. So and anyone that is about to not be. So yeah, we're pretty happy with Hancock's are our distributor for Deep Creek, and so they're doing a pretty good job, and it's definitely taken a while to get them aligned with how we think and doing the same job. Definitely this fruited sour project we're about to release has been a bit of a rigmarole. It basically came about from it's commissioned by one of our export clients who wanted these sort of beers and thought they'd go really well, and we made heaps of it for this order, and we think they'll go pretty well in the New Zealand market as well. So, but trying to get your distributor on board is has been a challenge, but they're taking them all on. So we'll see how good a job they do with those.
What batch size are you doing on those?
The originals were like 48 hec of each one. So it's like,
so you're gonna be really the first people to do that large scale in New Zealand for that style of beer.
That was, yeah, it was 150 hec. We've made another 20 hec of each for New Zealand. Or we're making, it's in tank at the moment. So yeah, it's they're pretty pricey. It's got a lot of fruit in there, and the pasteurization certainly isn't cheap either. So it's definitely a bit of a commitment to try.
That's cool to be first cab off the rank at scale.
Yeah, the
maybe not for the guys going to make it all.
I think they're a lot more approachable for people because they're definitely got a lot more sweetness and body than the fermented fruit sour. So, but yeah, they're quite a bit different. Caroline doesn't really like them, but I kind of do, which is kind of backwards how it normally works. So
you're getting that sort of pulpy kind of thick mouthfeel.
Yeah,
from...
like the berry is like actual chunks of pulp. It's like it's close to a milkshake or smoothie IPA or smoothie sour as you're going to get, I think. But definitely that one's probably more of a. I've got instructions to roll the can so you get all the pulp in there. So they're getting further and further away from beer, I guess. Yeah, beer fruit juice hybrid.
As long as it's got 50% barley, you're clear, aren't you?
It's in Japan even. I don't think you have to have that in New Zealand, but it does that. But yeah, I think it must contain beer is literally the
it has to contain barley. We've got a flat excise system in New Zealand though, William, like you pay based on alcohol in whatever beverage it is.
Yeah.
So you're not trying, like overseas, you often pay different excise depending on the type of beverage it is. So therefore they get into this beverage classification thing. As in New Zealand, you're basically just paying tax on the amount of alcohol that's whatever you're selling, whether it's a cider, a beer, a wine, or whatever. So they don't really give a shit about classification.
Cider's a bit different. Cider and wine, but yeah, beer is flat. It's if you're above 2.5%, you pay the same excise no matter what. Cider has bands, so it's 3 to 6, 6 to 9, kind of thing, something like that. Like RTDs are as well, but yeah, that's why I don't see.
It's not like overseas where you'll have like totally different kind of tax regime for beer and totally different tax regime for spirits and things like that. So therefore they're a bit more focused in terms of what the classification of beverages.
Beverage classification, yeah, definitely in Japan. There's some interesting rules. Having looked at that market, especially with hazies, you got to make sure you've got the right amount of malted barley and all that stuff in there. Yeah, these might challenge that. I think possibly. Should be too far off. I was going to say.
Do you pasteurize your other stuff that you've got at the brewery, or is this the only thing you pasteurize?
We had to send this product away to get pasteurized at steam. So
okay,
and it's a certainly unstable product. It's got a lot of sugar in it. So yeah, it's interesting. Normally, like super careful about everything. They're like, this is just going to get pasteurized. So who cares? But,
you jump on some of the American blogs and forums and stuff, and like all the beer heads that want all the latest and greatest beers and will do all sorts of crazy shit are sitting there and whinging and complaining when all their cans explode because, well, it's funny.
Yeah, it's definitely people that shouldn't be in the industry. So.
Alrighty, well. Thanks very much, Hamish, for your insightful spiel on the hoof.
Q&A, Matt. It's Q&A. It's the best way rather than listening to me talk about boring stuff.
Be fun to do a tasting as well with you in the future.
Yeah, it would be a good way of doing it. I've done these before where there's like a tasting pack that goes out, and you do a kind of run through them. But well, maybe with more than a day's organisation.
I mean, I think quite a few of us still managed to grab a couple of Deep Creeks.
I appreciate that you guys made the effort to go out and get some stuff. So that
it was a last minute mission. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, where there's a will, there's a way.
I should have thought.
So already had that one in the fridge.
I saw someone had a basalt out there, so I did bring basalt with me. But, It's I guess our latest hazy rune in our hazy series. Latest release. It's been out for about a month.
Because one thing I'll add, although Hamish won't tell you, he's a pretty banging homebrewer in his day. He's a bit modest and doesn't kind of like to sing his praises. But I remember when doing the 10th, like the WBC 10th anniversary, and we're going through the list of the person who kind of went on. There's this dude who kept on cropping up called Hamish. I'm wondering who the hell is Hamish until Hamish said, "Oh yeah, that's what they used to call me." And even on the sober stats and stuff like that, he's batted pretty well over the years.
Yeah, I definitely had a pretty scientific approach to my home brewing because I was a scientist, and I really like beer as well. So
combo,
a natural fit.
Yeah, well, I think you have to have that. You have to have that scientific background, that
it doesn't
attention
hurt.
to detail, and you can't be successful without that as a home brewer, even.
Yeah, I think you can make beer.
An obsession. It's a passion, right?
Yeah, you can make that beer good beer without that knowledge, but certainly a lot easier understanding when things have gone wrong or something like that. Troubleshooting to have understanding of why you're doing things.
Just touching on before. Just touching on before, you said like Isthmus is sort of like the stuff that you want to brew that's not really cost conscious. Does that mean like when you're like a brew that's probably going to grab for that? I mean, it's still price, but does it fit? Do you feel like that's probably the brew you grab before you Deep Creek? If that's more your personal brand?
I have unlimited access to Deep Creek beer, and I work there every day, and we're packaging Deep Creek every day, so that's most of what I drink.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess I've got unlimited access to Isthmus beer as well, but it's beer I could be selling. Whereas the stuff that's going to get chucked in the skip or something anyway.
So you're just drinking like empty cans and stuff like that.
So yeah, misprinted cans or something that we can't sell. So yeah.
Isthmus beer. I mean, I'll give a vote for Isthmus beers. I'll give you a plug. I mean, like when we were doing the XPA style, when we had to build one because there isn't one. I mean, that was one of the reference bases we used. I mean, I think your 3D, what you win gold for that in the New Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, gold in New Worlds. So
yeah, it's still one of the better West Coast I've had in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
Don't drop as a crack.
I would drink Isthmus all the time, but most of my beers with my distributor. So I get cases sent here occasionally, but most of the time I'm just grabbing stuff from work to drink at home. So, but yeah, anytime we package stuff, I get a bunch of Isthmus stuff to drink, and it is always good to. I guess the Deep Creek stuff I'm drinking is always fresh. Isthmus stuff I'll try it throughout its age, which we do for Deep Creek. We keep archive cans that we go back to all the time. So you definitely want to see, not just drink your fresh stuff all the time, because you'll find you wind up having complaints in 3-6 months, and you want to know how stable your product is. So always.
So you mentioned you're only pass running some of it. Are you filtering most of your beers apart from the hazies, or?
Anything that's supposed to be clear is filtered. We've done the odd unfiltered beer throughout the years, but just for consistency, instead of like a fine beer, you might wind up with some cans or kegs towards the start or end of the packaging run with a little bit of extra haze that goes through. That's why we filter just to make it consistent. It's a pretty loose filter. I think we're looking around 8 micron with the only set of filter pads we've got. So it's but it's plenty clear enough for our Pilsner, and we don't strip out too much flavour along with that. So we're definitely process-wise try and get everything as clear as possible to go through the filter, and then just let the filter polish the last bit of it.
You get much loss with filtering? We had well, it was a club meeting, and we had Craig from Batch Brewing, and he was saying he generally doesn't filter his beers because he loses a lot. Is that a thing for you?
You do have some losses. We try and minimize them. We've got a different filtration method to steam. But yeah, we've got a lenticular filter, which is basically a big cartridge filter, and they can only eat so much particulate. So we try to minimize the amount that goes in there, and you're definitely going to get losses from that. That's why we try and give it as long as possible before we do filter to get it as clear as possible. So we minimize our losses. But sometimes time is not our friend, and we have to filter cloudy stuff than we'd like. And yeah, at that point you definitely get increased losses. But
that's what I wondered a little bit with the filtration thing. Does that just quicken up your throughput? Because we, as home brewers, and we can get really crystal clear beers, but it might take a few months to get there.
Sometimes you don't have the time. Well, we definitely don't have the time. The only thing we'd look at to improve that would be a centrifuge, which is basically speeds up gravity, right? So that's something we're looking at, but we've got a large wish list of things you want to buy, and that's on the list. But
I can see you haven't got one of those with a new system.
We've got one in the budget, but we'll see how the budget survives the punch in the mouth from the brewery. So and other things. I suspect we're not going to be getting it. But you could just get more tanks and wait longer, and then you've got time. Basically, why spend $250,000 on a centrifuge? You just buy some tanks and have a longer turnover time, longer conditioning time.
How important is investment in that side of things in a hazy dominated production market? I mean, would you spin your hazies at all, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would spin everything. So yeah, it's tough to know without having it, but the people I know have them. Some spin everything, some don't. I think Garage Project aren't spinning everything.
Don't spin anything now, I think they said.
Yeah, Sawmill, they're spinning pretty much everything. I think Eddie Line, I think McLeod's. I haven't talked to Jason in a while, but I think they are spinning most of their stuff. Urbanaut, I'm not sure, but yeah, if we want to, we know the centrifuge you want to get, and that's $250,000. So that buys a lot of tanks, and we're not space limited as yet.
Check a few liters of gelatin in there. You want to find it.
Yeah. We've got vegan friendly on it. Okay.
Yeah, cross off the vegan friendly.
Yeah, we'll just slowly fade that one out.
Don't tell them. Just don't tell them.
Yeah. No, we already use findings, so but not. Not an animal one.
Isinglass. Oh no, that's animal as well, isn't it? Yeah. It's fish bladder or something. Fish bladder. Yeah.
I want to know who worked out that a tropical fish swim bladder was really good at making.
Yeah, I know. How do we work that out? Yeah. Crazy.
So you would have to have been involved in that decision, as with every other great one,
Yeah.
Look at the colour of your glass, mate. That beer is just like,
There's no light that's coming.
No, but it's just a head, man. I mean, you don't see a beer. Like, it's kind of funny. I mean, I still love the fact that you look at it when it's bright and it's vibrant, even when it's dark, it still makes you just want to love it.
In terms of your hazies, are you holding? Obviously, you guys talking about brewing a beer, get it out. Like, how long are you holding your hazies before you send them out?
Everything's pretty much 3 weeks. Within 3 weeks. It's pretty rare for a beer to go over that amount of time in tank for us. Stuff like the sours is probably quicker. But yeah, normally we're getting stuff clear diacetyl around 18, 19 days, and then it's crashed for a couple of days and into package. So yeah, 3 weeks is pretty fair average.
Oh, so you're actually keeping on the yeast for 18, 19 days?
Yep.
So what, Dave's saying you're starting to crash?
Yeah, I'm going to hear.
No, crashing after diacetyl. So 18, 19 is where we clear diacetyl.
Okay.
And then we'll crash it after that.
What are you using for your de-evaluation? Just your good cells?
Yeah, the human mass spec.
Working.
Yeah, it's pretty reliable. It's doing forced diacetyl test. It's something we've been doing for a while now, and having staff to do it makes it pretty easy process.
Because not normally, so just back to that, so normally you de-rest, the general consensus, you do that when you got a few points left. If you're doing 18, 19 days, that beer is pretty much finished, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, sorry, we're on diacetyl rest probably from early on, especially through winter, because it's hard we don't have heating on our tanks, so we've got the fermentation's got to get up there. And in winter, once you pass a certain activity, it's really hard to get that heat back into the beer, and it just takes ages to clear if you don't get up to 23 degrees. So we're putting them on de-rest probably maybe half to 2/3 of the way through fermentation, which can be like in a couple of days. So yeah, probably 19 days is on the outside of what we're seeing for diacetyl clears. Probably 16 is more like the average. Depends on.
So you're basically saying that like 2 to 3 days in, you're doing your de-rest,
and
then you're dropping it back down
at that elevated temperature until it passes diacetyl, which is up to day 16, 19, whatever.
Yeah. And then you're holding it at that time, you're holding it at a high temperature for longer, or you're sort of just dropping it back off naturally, or?
Well, I guess it tails down as activity wanes and your ambient temperature is cold at the moment, or has been cold. The last month it's been warm enough that they're kind of maintaining the temperature. But the diacetyl clear is literally a temperature dependent reaction. It doesn't depend on yeast, or yeast kind of impacts how much is created, but the conversion of the precursor into diacetyl is a temperature dependent step. So if you don't get hot enough, you don't convert your diacetyl quick enough, so the yeast can clean it up. So
depends on the yeast as well, right?
Yeah, yeast are different yeast
strain,
but the hazies throw heaps, so they take ages, and they're kind of the hardest to detect it in. So because they're like so hoppy, there's heaps of other things going on in the aroma, so you can mess those up easily, and it's definitely detectable in the finished products. It's annoying to find in your finished product when you think you've cleared it.
You're running 23 for a de-rest pretty much regardless of apart from, I suppose, lager yeast, whatever yeast you're running.
Lager's a bit cooler, yeah. But yeah, 23 for ale. I know the Belgians run them a fair bit hotter, but we're not.
You're saying about 15 for the lager, eh? For dairies?
Yeah. I think typically it's like 3 degrees above fermentation temperature, but our typical ale, like a 001 kind of style ale, will ferment at 18, and the hazies will ferment at 20. So
I think it's actually a really good message for home brewers, because I mean, like, at the end of the day, how long a lot of commercial breweries would actually hold their beers at conditioning in order to actually be clear before they're packaged. So, I mean, you're talking up to 18, 19 days on average before the beer is clear enough that you'd actually crash it out. How you don't get big hop processes these days? Like, you're making some pretty big hoppy beers. And don't answer this if you don't want to, but I mean, how are you? I mean, you're basically just dosing your hops in from the top, letting them settle. You taking anything off, or you just let it run the distance?
No, we just chuck it in the top, and then
purge the shit out of it, and then
we have a big ball valve that we stick on the top of the tanks, and we just tip the bags in the top, and then shut the valve, and hopefully no beer comes back at you. Not too much goes out the CRP arm or something, but yeah, it's good fun having big dry hops in our big tanks. Can be like 120 kgs and on a scissor lift 5 meters off the ground. Yeah,
balls out brewing.
Yeah, that's why we have staff.
And you'll let them sit on contact the whole period of time.
So with the hazies, we're hopping them pretty early, so we're getting the biotransformation, and they're pretty much in there the whole time.
So you split hopping, or you're doing the whole
we
secondary
can't,
dose?
Yeah, fermentation's too active to chuck it all in one go, so we'll do it over 2 days or 3 days if we can't get it in. Yeah, if you're running pretty full fermenters and active fermentation, they don't like having hops thrown at them. So
it's more you don't like wearing them, do you? Or?
Well, they probably just all go straight on the floor. So yeah.
And
so you're doing a lot of,
So you go, Dave.
No, go man.
In terms of, like, we talk a lot about dry hopping, but a lot of flavors sort of comes from Whirlpool these days. So, like, what's your sort of ratios of Whirlpool versus dry? Are you moving mostly to dry?
Mainly dry hop.
Oh, Whirlpool.
Yeah.
We do the hazies. We like looking at maybe 5 gram a liter Whirlpool, and 10 to 15 in the dry hop. Pretty similar for our IPAs as well. So yeah, maybe it's just our kettle Whirlpool design. It's not very efficient for having big Whirlpool loads. We lose way too much work above 10 kgs and 2,000 liters. So we have worked out that throwing that extra 5 or 10 kgs in the Whirlpool gets you a massive loss of beer. Some of our contract customers haven't learned that lesson, so they insist on a large Whirlpool edition and then complain about a really low yield.
Questionable thing, right? Yeah.
We just basically threw every kg of hops loses you 10 liters of beer, kind of thing.
But that much.
It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Like you get your bitterness from the boil.
And
you get your bitterness from the boil
at that point as well. So
yeah. Get the bitterness from the boil and the flavor from a dry hop. The Whirlpool, you're
running to diminishing returns and dry hop beers as well. So we've learned off other people's I guess trial and error where we want to be.
You use a chunk of cryo in your stuff these days, or you're still just using pellet for the bulk of it?
We use a bit of cryo, but not a lot. Some of our customers use a lot of it. Really good for yield. So that kind of diminishing returns, you could get around it by using some cryo. So it's really good for that. But it's definitely not something you want to go pure cryo. I think you definitely get something more from the, I guess, leaf impact or not just lupulin. So
yeah, I think cryo tastes stripped. I mean,
yeah,
there's only probably one full cryo beer that I really, really like, and it's really good, and I've got no idea why. In most of the others, you can sort of like, they're just, yeah. So, I mean, you're getting like, you're getting some pretty big hop flavors for 10 to 15 grams per litre of dry hopping. I mean, is that sort of why you don't have to worry so much about sort of, palate yield and everything else like that, or?
That's where we've found like the flavor kind of doesn't max out because you can get more, but the yield impact you get from it, and the hops can go a lot harsher at higher rates. So we've found more, I guess, through when we're dry hopping, gives us the bigger,
about the limit anyway.
impact.
That's about the limit anyway. 10 to 15 grams per liter. Anything above that, you're kind of wasting it.
Yeah,
you are, but that doesn't stop people.
Yeah,
yeah.
You definitely do get more, but is it better? That's
yeah.
That's
as you say, diminishing returns. And
but how much were you focused in terms of hop yield? Like, I mean, like, process in terms of like utilization of flavor from your dry hop, because you guys are getting a lot of flavor out of that.
It's a tough thing to measure, really, other than sensory. So they're just happy with the beer we make, and that's where it's fallen. So
cool. Yeah.
So you mentioned like you're doing your biotransformation over a few days. But are you doing later hopping, like closer to your crash, or are you just doing your
for the hazies? It's all early, like 3 to 4 days is what we're targeting. That can be quite a way through fermentation, as they're pretty active ferments. So for some of them, can be pretty close to most of the way through fermentation for even pretty large beers. So they're still all pretty active, but some customers have had us do them basically on the dry hop on the day of brewing. So I'm sure there's a word for it. I can't remember what it is, but yeah.
High Krausen hopping or whatever they call it.
It's not even that, because it's like you haven't even pitched the yeast yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that where you actually run them hop dipping, whatever it is.
It's not dip hop, because dip hop isn't that when you like
you run it in slightly hot, then you chill.
Yeah,
then
this
you
is
pitch.
like it's not even hot. It's like at fermentation temperature, and you put hops in it.
Okay, but like just
at the same time as yeast. So
do you just like sometimes you just make like these guys requesting all these things, and you're like, are you sure? Like,
I'm always
like you don't have to do that, eh? Like we've got other ways.
Sometimes if someone's doing something stupid, then we'll advise against it. Or if it's like just going to wreck the beer, definitely.
It's an interesting question. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
that's an interesting question, though. I mean, like, and we never talked about it. Actually, it's kind of weird. Do you reckon you guys have gained quite a bit through the fact that you contract brew for so many people? Like, I mean, often contract brewing can be a right pain in the ass and a bit of a shit from a logistics and a production point of view. But I mean, do you think it's given you guys? I mean, you're in an interesting position where you've been one of the top brews, but you've also been one of the top contract brews as well. Do you think you've actually sort of learned a lot and gained a lot through the process?
So. It's definitely been mutually beneficial, I guess. We can't do all these things and not learn, but sometimes it's been more pain than it's worth. But without making mistakes on behalf of other people, it's been, I guess, a learning experience. Especially when